There's a moment that stops every parent cold. The child comes home from school quieter than usual, or they mention a name, a classmate, a friend group, and something in their voice is off. And then it comes out, piece by piece, or all at once. Someone at school has been saying things, leaving them out, making comments about the way they look, the way they talk, the things they like. And the child sitting across from the parent is not just hurt, they are humiliated. And they are watching their parent very carefully to see how this is going to go. Bullying is one of the most emotionally charged conversations a parent can have with their child, and it is also one of the most commonly mishandled, not out of bad intentions, but because the parent's instinct to protect collides with what the child actually needs in that moment. This video is going to give parents the exact words to say when their child tells them they are being bullied. Words that make the child feel heard, safe, and supported, rather than more overwhelmed than they already are. First, it is important to understand what is happening for the child in the moment they disclose. Telling a parent about bullying takes courage, often more than parents realize. Many children sit on this information for weeks or months before saying anything. They stay quiet because they are afraid the parent will overreact and make things worse at school. They stay quiet because they feel ashamed, as though the bullying somehow reflects something wrong with them. And they stay quiet because they're not sure they will be believed or that anything can actually change. When they finally do speak, what they need most in that first moment is not a solution. They need to feel that the person they trusted with this information is handling it in a way that does not make their world feel even more out of control. Here's what parents typically say, and what goes wrong. The first response is often immediate action mode. Who is this kid? I'm calling the school tomorrow. I'm talking to their parents. This comes from love, and it lands as a grenade, because the child who just shared something vulnerable is now watching the situation spiral out of their hands. They came to the parent for comfort and connection, and instead the conversation has left them and become about logistics and confrontation. Many children after this response never bring it up again. The second response is minimizing, usually also from a place of love. Kids can be mean, you just have to ignore it. It'll blow over. This is intended to reassure. What it actually communicates is that the parent does not understand how serious it feels, or does not believe it is worth taking seriously. The child walks away feeling more alone than before they said anything. The third response is turning it into advice before the child has finished speaking. Next time, just say this back to them. You need to stand up for yourself. Find new friends. The problem with advice given too early is that it skips over the child's emotional experience entirely. They have not been heard yet, and unheard children cannot take in guidance, no matter how good it is. So here's what to say instead. When the child first discloses, resist every instinct to fix, minimize, or mobilize. Sit down, get still, make eye contact, and say this: I'm really glad you told me. That took guts. Tell me what's been happening. Then listen. Do not interrupt. Do not react visibly to details that shock or anger. Save that for later, in private. Just listen until they've said everything they want to say. When they've finished, before saying anything else, say this: That sounds really hard. I'm sorry you've been going through this. How long has this been happening? This question does two things. It communicates that the parent is not dismissing what they heard. They are taking it seriously enough to want to understand the full picture. And it often reveals information the child had not yet shared, because the question opens a door rather than closing one. After the child has answered, the next phrase is critical. It directly addresses the shame that almost every bullied child is carrying underneath the hurt. Say this: I want you to hear something. Nothing about this is your fault. Not the way you look, not the things you like, not who you are. The problem is entirely with the person doing this, not with you. This needs to be said clearly and without rushing past it, because a child who has been repeatedly targeted begins, without realizing it, to internalize the message of the bully. They start to believe that if they were somehow different, funnier, cooler, better looking, less sensitive, none of this would be happening. The parent's job is to interrupt that narrative directly and firmly before it has time to root. Now, and only now, is the time to move towards action. But even here, the language matters. Rather than announcing what the parent is going to do, invite the child into the decision. Say, I want to help make this stop. What feels right to you?
Do you want me to talk to the school, or would you rather we figure out some other steps first? Giving the child agency over the response is not the same as handing them a problem they can't solve alone. It's recognizing that a child who has already lost control over their social environment desperately needs to feel that they have some say over what happens next. When a child has input into the plan, they are also more likely to follow through, share updates, and come back to the parent if things escalate. There's a specific scenario worth addressing: the child who says, "Please don't do anything, it'll make it worse." This is extremely common, especially in middle school where social dynamics are fragile, and intervention from a parent can sometimes intensify a bullying situation rather than resolve it. The right response here is not to promise inaction and not to override the child's concern. It is to say, "I hear you. I won't do anything without talking to you first, but I also can't just do nothing if this keeps happening. Let's check in again in a few days and see how things are going. Deal?" This response honors the child's fear while holding the parent's responsibility. It doesn't promise to stay silent indefinitely, which would be a promise the parent should not make, but it does promise collaboration rather than unilateral action. That distinction matters enormously to a teenager navigating a social world that already feels out of their control. One more thing. After the initial conversation, the follow-up matters just as much as the first response. Check in the next day, not with, "So, did anything happen?" which puts the child back on the spot, but with something lighter. "How are you doing today?" And pay attention to what comes back. Children who are being bullied often show signs beyond what they report directly: changes in appetite, sleep, willingness to go to school, interest in activities they used to love. The parent who stays attentive between conversations is the one who catches things early. A child who is being bullied is carrying something that feels enormous and isolating. The moment they choose to bring it to a parent is one of the most important moments in the relationship, because how the parent responds in those first few minutes determines whether the child will keep coming back or whether they will start carrying things alone. Be still. Listen first. Say, "I'm really glad you told me. That took guts." Everything else flows from that. If this video helped, please give it a like. It helps this channel reach more parents who need it. And subscribe for more videos just like this one, because these moments don't wait. And here's something to talk about in the comments. Did you ever tell your parents you were being bullied as a kid? Did they handle it in a way that helped, or did it make things harder? Share your experience below. These stories matter, and every parent reading them will learn something real from what you went through.